all of you, thank you very much for taking the time this evening to join us for sort of an overview and the state of the school. I want to thank faculty and staff who have joined us tonight, the people who are committed to providing the amazing education to your children. I want to thank families who've taken time out of their evenings to join us, our trustees, this is too close, our trustees who day in and day out provide the strategic guidance to the school that ensures that TVT is here for a very long time. And as proof of that, I also want to make a special mention of our past board chairs who have joined us tonight, without whom TVT would absolutely not be where we are today. We very much stand on the shoulders of all of those who came before us. So those of you who have long since had children leave us and graduate and are now having children of their own and getting jobs and doing all of those things, thank you so much for taking the time to come back, and thank you for all you did for TVT. Thank you. So a little bit about this evening and what we'll be doing. So a little bit about who we are, our Jewish identity as a school, a little bit about our innovative program, sort of how we work. We speak quite a bit about a board of trustees and being governed as an independent school. We'll talk a little bit about what that means. We will talk about funding, where our funding comes from, where our funding and our money goes. And then we will talk a little bit about our future vision and your partnership in that vision. And as a side note, those of you, bless you for taking pictures of every single slide, you are totally welcome to. But know that Kevin in the back there is putting together a professional recording that will be sent to you tomorrow. So you can play me at 1.5 speed. You can pause and see, whatever you'd like to see twice. So don't feel like you need to be taking notes or taking pictures. So as I begin, I want to share a brief idea inspired by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. And for any of you who've heard me speak before about education, you know I cite him quite frequently. He's one of the people who most shapes how I think about schools. So Rabbi Sachs noted something remarkable about the moment when Moses gathered the Israelites on the brink of their freedom. He didn't speak about the promised land. He didn't speak about the hardships ahead, or even all of the miracles that they had witnessed. Instead, he spoke again and again about one thing: the responsibility of parents and community to educate the next generation. Rabbi Sachs taught that education is the ongoing conversation between generations, where we pass on our values, our story, and our highest aspirations, trusting that our children will carry them further than we ever could. It is also about debate and arguing, civilly of course, and it can not only be about simple answers, skills, and resumes, for the world is changing too quickly for that. Education must also be about knowing the right questions to ask. It must be about character, purpose, and the ability to navigate an unpredictable future with integrity. In short, we're building an internal moral GPS in our students. And that's why TK to 12 education is so incredibly critical. Much of the angst today is about getting into college and the right college, but actually I would argue that our strong focus should be on the education that children receive in their most formative years. What they learn between the age of 4 and 18 will have a greater impact on their life success. And I don't mean the job they get, but I mean life fulfillment and what they do with their lives, than anything a 4-year college that is simply delivering content can do. What they gain in these years at TVT will give them the ability to put the college content into meaningful action. So the question is, how do you do that as a school? Knowing that we have this massive responsibility to shape these minds from 4 years old to 18, how do we do it? And it all starts with being a Jewish school. So our Jewish studies and Jewish life program remain incredibly strong. We are Jewish in a way that is living, inclusive, ethical, intellectual, and rooted in timeless values. And we measure our success by how deeply Jewish wisdom shapes who our students become. Let me talk to you a little bit about the Jewish life and learning journey at TVT from a higher level. And I'm going to put on my old teacher hat for a second to explain how I think about this. When we think about educating students, we think about that first level of learning is knowing. And that's the foundation that everything gets built from. And that's how I see what we do in the lower school. It is immersive Jewish experiences, Hebrew language, rituals, holiday celebrations. How do we get them all the possible knowledge that they will need to know to begin to think deeply about these things? You have to have that base foundation of knowledge first. And if you think, for the educators in the room, that next level of thinking is sort of the critical thinking piece. And I think of middle school as that phase. How does this relate to me? I have this corpus of knowledge. I know all this Jewish. Now I'm starting to think about, how do these things relate to me? How does this inform, what does this mean when I think about what I'm learning in history class? What does it mean here? And it's asking students to start taking that foundation they've laid in lower school and building upon it to begin thinking critically about it. And the highest level of thinking, if you're using sort of the three-tiered model, is analytical. And that's the how does it relate to me question. And that is, for our upper school students, how is this informing how I want to live as a young adult and beyond? So I've learned all of these great things, whether it's text, it's tradition, it's ritual, it's values. How am I taking this out into the world and letting it inform my life? That's how we see the arc of learning Jewish life, rituals, all of that, as you move from lower, middle, and upper. So the pillars that gird all of this are these. First and foremost, text study. Text study anchors everything we do, whether it's in English or Hebrew. It is the beginning of every class, every Jewish studies class. It is the beginning of our rituals. This is where we anchor ethical exploration, moral reasoning, identity formation, but it is by no means the only thing we do. Text is the first step, not the last step in the process. It's what guides students to ask them to be drawn in and be part of interpretive history, to be part of their community, and it lays that strong foundation for critical thinking skills, and by the by, lays an incredibly strong foundation in the history of the world. So the pillars under that text study, that if that's at our core, are ethics. I mean, this is probably the one thing I don't need to speak much about. It's the values of our school that are lived every day in everything that we do. This is not just, oh, hey, we have a, character trait of the month and we focus on it for a month and it's come and gone. There's a reason our seniors at graduation inevitably speak about the values in their speeches. The next is ritual. It's incredibly important as a Jewish school. This is our rhythm of the day. It's the rhythm of the week. It's the rhythm of the year. Every student, TK to 12, early in the week, has, whether it's tefillah or Zman Kodesh, some sort of grounding prayer time. And every student, TK to 12, ends their week with Kabbalat Shabbat. And every student, TK to 12, engages in the holidays at vastly different ways, even though our seniors still, they love the Yom HaAtzmaut fair and they will get into that. But age appropriately, all of the holidays are celebrated TK to 12, and not just laying the foundation of knowledge. This is also, you feel the rhythm of the year. You know when students are talking about sort of their costumes for Purim, and it's not, costumes about Halloween. That creates that Jewish rhythm of the year. It's also ensuring that through Jewish life and Jewish studies, this sense of responsibility, that is not just about us, that Tikkun Olam is a central pillar of what we do. And it's not just in the curriculum, it is in the lower school through all of their field, coordinating field trips through SEDIC America. It is the middle school doing service days and having a giving garden where they plant and grow fresh produce that gets donated to Mariner's Food Pantry so that people who go to Mariner's Food Pantry have fresh produce. It is our high school students going on weeks-long intensive service immersions around the world. It is central and core to how we build Jewish life and learning. And finally, allies and advocates. We are a school that ensures our students stand with the Jewish community, and they stand proudly, and they stand proud of who they are, they stand proud of who their friends are, and they are armed with the knowledge to be able to stand up for others and lead others. So that is a little bit about Jewish identity. Tied to our incredible Jewish Studies program, our Jewish Studies curriculum and Jewish living, our program prepares students to be successful on each step of their journey at TVT, in college and beyond. Like I said earlier, the education children receive in their most formative years is perhaps the most influencing factor of life outcomes. These years at TVT provide the foundation for a successful and fulfilling life. So I get asked more than anything else these questions. So we're going to get this out of the way, and then I will tell you how we get there. See, that's the slide everybody wants to see. So for those of you who have not had children go through the application process, who don't know what all of this means, I'm going to give you a short primer on why this is awesome. So in high school, there are courses students can take called AP classes. They are designed to be college-level classes that you can take and receive college credit. And you get an extra bump on your GPA. They are meant to be sort of the most rigorous of rigorous. We can have a debate later about whether or not that's sort of the AP serves what they say they serve, but there is an actual test at the end that determines, have you acquired the knowledge at the end of this course that the AP board, the college board would say, you have the knowledge you need, here's the credit. So 96% of our students who take those classes pass. That's insane. The average pass rate, thank you, Steve. The average pass rate at independent schools is in the 80s. So this is incredibly good. Then the other question I get is like, oh, you're kind of small. Like, do you have AP classes? We actually have as many, if not, we do have more than a certain school up the street, I'm just going to say. We have as many or more AP classes than schools double our size. And it matters because as we move on in this presentation, you'll see our goal here is to offer as many pathways and journeys as possible to students. And so we want to make sure we can offer courses to students who have a wide variety of interests. The National Merit Program, again, ridiculous. 14 kids in one class, and our senior class this year is 52. So 14 is, thank you. See, in the kindest way, the old timers who have a lot, you know it. So 14 students have been recognized by the National Merit Program. 8 of those are commended scholars, which means of 3.5 million students who took the PSAT exam last fall, they scored in the top 3 percentile. 6 of them are National Merit semifinalists, means they're in the top 1% of all of those 3.5 million test takers. We will find out in February, I wish we knew today, we don't, which will become actual National Merit finalists, but that is an incredible number for a school our size. Crazy. So says the alumni parents. So also, this was a stat that I wanted to show because it's merit-based. This is last year's senior class was awarded $2.7 million in merit scholarship money. That means this school wanted our kid, whatever school it was, wanted a student so badly they offered them a scholarship to go there. This is not need-based. This is purely, you're pretty great, and we think you might pick somewhere else, so we're going to give you money to come here. That is an impressive amount of money for a class of, I think last year was 48 students to earn in scholarship money. So the question is sort of, how do you, how you get this? Because TVT, when you look at, the great question for every school is, what schools do you put here? So here's what I will say. TVT has an incredibly personalized college counseling program that begins almost essentially in 8th grade. They start learning about things. They start talking to the counselors about things. The counselors know your families. There are 2 college counselors for each grade, or for each graduating class. So 26 kids per counselor this year, which most schools are in the 45 to 75 range. So they get to know students incredibly well. And our focus is on fit, right? It is about, if you are the student, and these are real stories, if you are the student who's like, this whole academic thing, like, I am going to be a professional guitar player. Like, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going in life. Like, our college counseling program can send you to Berklee School of Music. If you are the student who's like, you know what, I've actually really loved Jewish studies and I kind of want to stay in that, but I don't want to squeeze myself in, so like, JTS has this amazing program with Columbia, like I'd love to apply to that. We can set you on that path. It is about the journey that each family and student, what the best fit is for them academically, what the best fit is for them socially, where they will have success, where they will be challenged but not overwhelmed. It is not a contest of US News and World Report. It is really an individualized program that, depending on which of these schools students are interested in, there's a proven sort of track record of our college counseling department being able to send students to schools that are incredibly selective, whether it's because it's incredibly selective for arts, or it's incredibly selective for academics, or it is just, it's in a place that my whole family is there, I want to be there. It is an incredibly individualized experience. So how, most importantly in my mind, how do you get those results? And you achieve those outcomes by allowing every learner to take their own journey, to explore new interests and to stretch and challenge themselves. And now I'm going to tell you, this is a little peek into my mind, because this is actually an AI-generated image of how I see our program. Don't panic. There's a rhyme and a reason, because I'm sure people will be like, oh dear, what's happening in her head? So here's how I see this, and maybe this is, I tend to see things just sort of out there. I tend to see things as I see things from a mountain bike. Like, that's how things make sense to me. Sort of trails, trees, obstacles, things like that. So here's how I see our program. We have a program that has very good definition in the sense of, here are different pathways you can take. If you are this is our sort of educational jargon, so stick with me, but like the college prep path, from TK to senior year, like there is a path, you could hop on that, and you could happily sort of cross that bridge, and there's that nice sort of meandering path that goes, and you never sort of stray from that path. That could be the honors path, it could be the AP path. Like so we have paths. So let's be clear, because somebody, when I reviewed this, were like, do you not have, like, we have a path. So, but the beauty of TVT is this, is I also know that I will meet a kindergartner at some point this year who loves Legos, and their family is absolutely convinced, totally going to be an engineer, obviously. They're 5 and they love Legos. We're building engineering. You have an engineering program. Here we go. So we put them on the engineering path, and they're in all the enrichment stuff after school, and they're doing all of these great things, and they're on the path, and then they take Dr. McNellis's creative writing class, and they're like, oh, I kind of love poetry. Like, I can shift. Like, I'm the kid who loves poetry now, because some of you also have the kid right now who you're telling me, like, Faye Wiles is like, they are going to be a professional artist. I see it already. Like, that kid might decide computer science later. And there's an entry point. Entry points are never closed off. So there's a way, like, yes, if you're following a traditional trajectory, yes, you are that kid who sort of got on the path, and that works, and we have that. But it also allows for the exploration of students to, you know what, this is kind of what I'm interested in now. These are the stories we're building on those transcripts when we talk about individualized college counseling. The other important piece of this, how I see our program and why I think we're so successful in achieving these results, is, do you see that path? So now picture, we're just in a year. Don't think of TK to 12. This is just in a one given year. Purposely, see that path that falls right into the river? Because at some point, almost every child in this room is going to wind up face down in the river. And it will likely happen like in a class that like I didn't study for this test, or I didn't do that, or I didn't, like something I didn't do. And the question is, right, like there's also a path out of the river. One of my favorite things I talk to faculty about here is this. There are two ways to treat children who find themselves face down in the river. You can laugh because they're face down in the river and be like, "How I told you to study for the test, like figure it out." Or you can walk up to them and say, "Hey, I've had kids here before. Let me show you the way out." And that's the two paths out. And that's what TVT, that's how when we talk about sort of developing students who can achieve this, yes, they have to also decide they want to challenge themselves and take the stairs one day instead of the nice winding path. And we have to allow them to sort of fall in the river and bring them back out of it. That's how you achieve those. So that being said, because I know some people who are a little more structured thinking than I am, like a clear starting point. So we have one of those two. Before any student begins on their journey, we start from one common understanding here at TVT. To be a learner, to choose a path, you must first and foremost know how to think. If people ask me, what is my greatest fear as an educator right now and what keeps me up at night? This is it. I had a conversation with an alum at Alumni Happy Hour, and we were talking about his use of AI at work. And we were talking about, I was saying how I use it, how, full disclosure, like, started the presentation from it, like, how do you work through it? And so you talk about, like, oh, I will do this, but I did this, and then I did that. And we started talking about, like, the difference between that alum and the students in school now. That alum had to learn without AI. That alum had to learn, like, we all went to school and figured out how to learn without being able to ask ChatGPT, like, hey, what should I withhold from my W-2 this tax year to avoid? Like, you actually had to figure out how to do it. So we have to, as a school, ensure that we are doing everything we possibly can to ensure that our students are still thinkers. They must be thinkers. If we do not have a student body that can think, then we're starting from nowhere. So that has to be our starting point. So first and foremost, this comes from real-world assessments. And what do I mean by that? So there is nothing sort of plaguing faculty in the world more, whether it's college or anywhere else, than how do you assess students that they can't just simply AI it, because it's everywhere now. So this means we have to teach our students how to listen carefully, gather evidence, articulate ideas, and then engage thoughtfully with others. So what does this look like? This looks like giving assessments where students have to be able to orally articulate and defend. This looks like a middle school English class that does a TED-style summative assessment after researching on technology use, weighing multiple perspectives, demonstrating that knowledge, and then letting other people pick away at it and be able to defend it. It looks like an upper school chemistry class, and this This is where my downfall was in chemistry. Remember those old tests where you had to like diagram the octagon and figure out what came off it and all of that? So our chemistry teacher, in one of her assessments this year, had students create a perfume. And what they had to do was apply sort of their concepts of molecular structure, polarity, and solubility to understand how chemical properties influence scent. And then they had to get up and sell it to the class. And they had to explain how these things interacted with one another, and they had to answer questions from potential investors. Like, that's how you ensure people are knowing and learning and not just spitting things out and turning it in and making a couple of edits. It is also, though, in the beautiful hidden corners of TVT, and this is a critically important point about engagement. And this is not about curriculum. So this is about the culture that gets created in this school that draws students in to engage in their learning. So I'm going to tell you a story that sort of encapsulates all the best of TVT. And the beauty of TVT, this literally just, I think, came across our email, Josh, like a month ago. So things are happening all the time. I could pick a number of stories, but it was a group of teachers had decided they wanted to learn more about the Talmud. And they were going to create a study group. Would we support them in this? So they created a study group that met weekly in the library for them to get together and study Talmud. At the same time, picture an 8th grader who is injured out of PE. So he's spending his time in the library injured out of PE. And one day, he's just noticing what's going on with the faculty. So he says to them, "Can I join you?" Like, first off, the mere fact that a student would go up to a group of faculty and be like, "Hey, what's going on here? Can I join this? It looks kind of interesting." Right, and so in he joins, right? Whatever is wrong with him heals. And he has to go back to PE. But he goes to the teacher leading this and says, and you can't write this. I mean, he says to her, "Can I keep coming? I feel like this is really good for my soul." Right? Like, that's when we talk about engagement, you have to create an environment where students want to hang out with the adults. They want to hang out with the teachers. They want to engage in these conversations. They want that sort of learning to be happening. They don't want it. I know they hate these signs that, we're a device-free zone, but like, they want to be in a place that says, talk to each other, learn from each other. And that's not just your peers, it's the adults around you as well. And lastly, because lest we think we're sort of foregoing technology, we are not. The idea is teaching them to think is that first step, and then the question becomes, how do you teach them to actually partner with technology? For any of us who have used it, we know it's incredibly powerful and incredibly helpful. So we partner with technology and emphasize problem solving, evidence-based decision-making, collaboration, clear communication, helping students learn how to think with technology and not just use it. And how do we do it? You want to know why our 8-year-olds are taking computer science and engineering in the lower school? This is where it begins. If you are at TVT, like, you could have 10 years of sort of problem-based computer science, engineering thinking under your belt before you leave here. And you could be taking the class at the end of your time that is AI and machine learning. Like, there is a progression. We are by no means saying like, oh, scary AI, scary technology. It is, how do you get kids to first and foremost be thinkers, and then how do you get them to engage in that technology? So the learning journey begins in the classroom, but it extends well beyond it. They are clubs and student activities, and our athletics department are designed to reinforce content, to reinforce skill development in all areas. So this might be a place you want to go deeper into something, you explore it through a club. You want to explore something new, you can do it through a club as well. It's low stakes. Our athletics department has continued on their sort of legacy and history of being a really excellent place for leadership development, perseverance, and most importantly, self-confidence. Like, I get this a lot now in this generation, like, how are we developing confidence in these students? Our athletics department is an incredible place to do that, and I just have to gloat. We're off to an awesome start to the year, so I'm very happy about that in upper school athletics. We have, for the first time ever, a league player of the year in girls tennis, which is very exciting. Our girls soccer team is killing people. Thank you, right there. It is, I used to be a girls soccer coach, so this makes me really happy. And then also, through our athletics, like, it's not just about sports. We also have students who represent, we're in a conference through CIF called LAC, and we have students who serve on the Student Athlete Leadership Conference. So it's providing leadership opportunities not only through sports, but also through the governing body as well. So this is a lot. Like, I hear this from parents a lot, like, oh my God, it's a lot of classes, it's a lot of clubs, it's a lot of sports, like, you got a lot going on. So how do we ensure that we're supporting our students? And here's the broad view. We're a school that has a counselor at every division, and every division gets unique sort of programming by that counselor on social emotional learning, wellness, and developmentally appropriate support that builds resilience, independence, and self-advocacy. These are the people who, along with the teachers, will help your child when they find themselves face down in the river. There is targeted academic support. So at every level, you have reading specialists, you have learning lab, we have different things that support students academically. And I cannot overstate this because I think sometimes schools think, oh, you've done the social emotional well-being, we are all good. Like, it is about physical health as well. And TVT has invested greatly in ensuring the physical health of our students. We are I think we're one of the only schools that I know that has 2 RNs on campus for students who need that. We have health education. We have an athletic trainer. We have our school counseling team. And this is, yes, lower school students, you get snacked, but I will say probably one of the greatest mental health things we do for our middle and upper school students is a cafe that is open all day. If kids are hungry, kids aren't sure where they're gonna, when they're gonna get to eat next, what's happening, if you saw how often kids are in the cafe, sort of getting food, they are growing beings that need that nutrition, and our cafe gives them healthy options all throughout the day. It is not just, here's lunch, good luck, hope you, go to soccer feeling okay even though you've, not eaten enough. The cafe is open all day, they can go anytime, and that is a huge piece of emotional and mental well-being and physical well-being for our students. So everything we do is very intentional, and it's important to note that none of this happens by accident. From the real-world assessments to the creation of a culture that encourages students to study with teachers, it happens when you have shared academic leadership, ensuring that how students learn in one division intentionally builds towards the next. That culture in one division intentionally builds upon the previous one. That alignment is overseen by our assistant head of school for TK-12 programming and driven by our deans of teaching and learning and innovation and our educational technology director, whose work connects classrooms, curriculum, and skills across TK-12. I want to just pause on that because I know it's a question parents had last year when we restructured. Seems like you're creating a lot of admin. This program, this alignment, all of this is what you get when you have people who can keep an eye on this. And it is not one sole division head trying to sort of manage it all. That's the thinking behind that assistant head of school model, those deans of teaching and learning, that educational technology director. That is where that stems from. So all of the above cultivates collaboration, resilience, and leadership, traits that colleges explicitly seek and the world desperately needs. It also builds portfolios and experiences that other schools can rarely match. TVT delivers outcomes equal to or stronger than high-performing public schools and more elite independent schools without sacrificing the importance of being a person of good character, Innovation and Jewish values aren't extras, they're essential. They're how students gain the competitive edge that positions them for college and beyond. So, out of the program and sort of into, this is the budget part of the evening of the State of the Union, sort of funding excellence. Like that, everything we just went through, it's a lot. So tuition funds quality. Philanthropy is what funds our possibility. Together they make TVT exceptional and accessible. Here's what I mean by it. First, a quick primer on what it means to be an independent school, because I'm not sure people know this. So as an independent school, which is a term, it's not sort of made up, this is what it means to be independent. TVT is funded solely by tuition and philanthropy. There is no state, federal, or overarching Jewish institutional funding. We're not for profit, and we are governed by a board of trustees. Those are the three things that make you an independent school. And independent schools are the one industry that do not charge the full cost of the product. Imagine any other industry that was like, yeah, you want that handbag? We know it took us $75 to build it, but we'll give it to you for $60. Like there is no other industry that undercharges for their product. So what you have is this model of tuition and philanthropy. So for those of us who are not CPAs or MBAs in the room, I've broken it down simply for us. So if our budget was $1, like how did we get that dollar? If we have $1 to spend on the school, where does it come from? 87% or 87 cents of that dollar comes from tuition and fees. That leaves 13% that we still have to fund after charging tuition and fees. So TVT, thank you very much, is lucky enough to have 8 cents coming from endowment or from philanthropy, and then 5 cents from auxiliary services. Think like after-school program, rentals, things like that. Currently, TVT is drawing 0% from an endowment. Okay, so this is where we are currently. So if our budget was $1, that's where it comes from. So now the question is, you have this dollar, where are you spending your dollar? This is where TVT spends their dollar. And this is 58 cents of that dollar goes to salaries and benefits. All of that faculty and staff that you know are the absolute reason you love TVT, because that program is amazing and wonderful, but without the people who deliver it, it's like the people who deliver it are 58 cents of the dollar that we spend. We will spend another 22 cents on programs, operations, and services. We will spend 15 cents of that dollar on financial aid, and we will spend 5 cents of the dollar on deferred maintenance and capital improvements. That's how that money gets spent. So when people ask about sort of, why the annual fund? Why the fundraising? This is why. It's filling that piece of the pie that does not get filled by tuition and fees. So why is it so vital to TVT? We're going to have a very transparent moment here tonight. So one, simply, it gives us predictability. If I know that on average the annual fund brings in X amount of money a year, we can budget for it. My CFO and I every year sit down and with Director of Advancement and talk about like, hey, where we think we're going to be. Like having a number that we know we can hit helps provide predictability to the budget. The other thing is, and this is something I'm not sure the community is fully aware of, 9 years ago, a family incredibly generously gave us a 10-year, $1 million a year gift. Next year, that gift is up. So when we talk about that 8 cents of philanthropy, a decent chunk of that sunsets at the end of next year. So when we have ramped up the annual fund and people have said like, oh, it feels like kind of focused on this. Yes, because there's that very generous donor who said, I'm in it for 10 years, sunsets next year. So I'm not expecting. I need to be able to, like when we focus on the participation thing, people have said to me, like, really, $180, like, does the $180 matter? Yes. Do you want to know why? Because when I go out to replace that $1 million, the first question that I'm going to get asked on a grant application, the first question I'm going to get asked by somebody else considering that size of a gift is your community in it with you, or is this just me? Like, that's what matters. Like, in the grand scheme of a, $30 million budget, $180, like, it shows your commitment. And that's what donors want to see. That's what grant makers want to see. That is why we pester and pester and pester at annual fund time, because that number matters. And I'm proud to say this community has risen terrifically to it. So we are doing very well, but that is sort of the why behind the annual fund. I know that has been something that's sort of been out there, so that is the why behind it. So here comes the point in the evening where I get to introduce my partner in crime over there, Brian Levy, the board of the chair of our board of trustees. Brian Levy, he's going to talk a little bit about the role of the board and tuition.
I'm a little upset I didn't get an AI-generated photo in my section, but that's okay. The most common question that I get is, what in the world does the board do? So I'm going to start talking about what we do and really what it means to this community. But first and foremost, there's really 3 pillars. The first is protecting the mission of the school. And we ensure alignment with that mission, our vision, and make sure that lines up, that we never get off track. And we are strategic in nature. A lot of people think we don't get into the weeds of the day-to-day within the classroom, and we do not get into the operations of the school. That job is left to Jill and her team on the leadership side. But the board sets the direction and the compass, and the leadership and the head of school executes that. The second pillar, as I mentioned, we're strategic in nature, but think about the board is thinking about, how are we sustainable? How do we continue to elevate the experience for our families, our community, our children for the next 10 years, 20 years, 50, or even 100 plus years? That's what we're thinking about. That's what we're spending our time, and there's so many generous trustees giving their time. We're all busy, and we're thinking about, how do we make things better? And how do we continue to be here for a long time? And thankfully, there's people before us that did that. So these amazing buildings, this amazing school, we've never been at a better place than we are today. Every year stacks on itself, and we're in an amazing, amazing spot. And I want to thank we have past board chairs here tonight. I want to thank all of you, because without you, TVT would not be here where it is today. So I want to get another round of applause, please, for the board chairs. I know how much time it takes, so I really appreciate all you've done in serving the community. So we're very grateful. And lastly, the third pillar is really, we have a fiduciary obligation that's held to the highest standard for the school, for our kids, ensuring that whatever resources we have, we're using them to the best of our ability, and we're responsible with those resources. And as Jill mentioned, there's so much push for the annual fund and giving, and it's not because we want to pester you and be annoying. It's because we need a healthy endowment, a healthy reserves. As she said, we're not using that today, but we want to make sure it's there if we do need it for a rainy day, or if we want to elevate those services to make sure we're never in a poor position. We're there to minimize risk. So we're constantly thinking, how do we manage and how do we minimize risk? I'm sure all of you in here can think things through of what's happened in the last several years that was a risk to this school and this community, and we're constantly thinking about those risks. And those are across the board. There's more than we want to count. And so we're constantly thinking about that, and that's something that's on the forefront of our mind. And then lastly, setting the tuition, making sure that we're doing it responsibly, we're doing it with governance, and we're keeping up with inflation, not just typical inflation, but inflation related to schools, inflation related to our kids, and the type of needs that they have. And to continue to offer an excellent program. So how do we set tuition? As I mentioned, it's a governance-led process. The first and foremost, you saw it was a 58 cents to salaries and benefits. We have the best teachers in the country. And we want not only to attract A+ talent, we want to retain them. As schools in our community are opening up, and they're trying to steal and compete with a great school like TVT, we have to offer top-tier benefits, top-tier salaries, bonus programs. That is a key part of where the money goes. I grew up in a public school. My wife went to an independent school. She won. We're obviously at an independent school. But I understand what large class sizes are. And we want to keep it as a personalized experience and have optimal class sizes here, and have innovative programming. Jill talked about AI and what that means. We want to make sure we're on the cutting edge for our children. State-of-the-art facilities like the one you're in and all the other ones that we have on campus. And I have 3 children here. The thing that I think about the most is I want them to be in a safe place and that we can protect them if something, God forbid, ever happened. So the security of this campus, you saw in the lower school, we have now the fencing. We're constantly thinking, how do we improve? How do we get better? And how do we protect our kids in the crazy world that we're in today? So we don't just come up with a tuition number out of a hat. We go through a pretty rigorous process every year with the financial team. We look at benchmarking. We look at the budgets. We benchmark across pretty much every, TVT is pretty unique if you think about it. We have a really high academic school that's inclusive. It's Jewish values based. There's a lot of factors at play, and there's pretty much not a school like us out there. And so when we do our benchmarking, we have to pretty much look at everybody. We look at pure independent schools in Orange County. We look at Jewish day schools across all of California, and because of course it's all published, and we look at TK through 12 through all of California. And we go through those benchmarkings, we roll up our sleeves, we get in the boardroom and we talk about it. The reality is there's a balance. There's a balance between having an excellent program for our families and our children. There's a balance between being financially sustainable. I talk about it in my own company. If we don't take care of the business, if we don't take care of TVT, it can't take care of our kids. And lastly, access. We saw 15% of our budget goes to financial aid, giving access to every single family who wants to experience TVT. So these are we came out with the tuition numbers. This is our 26-27 tuition. Don't worry, you do not need to write this down. This is going to go out this week. You're going to have those slides and those numbers. And as always, we offer that early credit if you re-enroll before February 1st. Jill is going to come up, and what I think is important as a parent, something that Jill and we always talk about this at the board, is 1, I want to know where my money's going. 2, I want to know what that means for the future and investing in the future, and what it means for my family, my children. And so Jill's going to come up and talk about and say, where is our money going moving forward, not just today and the future. So thank you so much.
like Brian said, what are we investing in? So these are our priorities. And those of you who remember, because I'm sure you've all watched it again and again and again, remember the strategic vision video that came out like a year and a half ago? It was great. You should go back and rewatch it. But these are our priorities. They remain the same. Investing in faculty excellence. Brian touched on this. I've talked about it. We have to be able to attract and retain the very best teachers, and they have to be able to live near the school. We have to pay them well if we want the top-notch faculty. Jewish life. We have a Jewish life program for any of you who have seen Rabbi Light or Rebbetzin Rock around the holidays that is quite frankly unmatched. And some of us always joke, like, has Rabbi Light figured out that we're not in his house? That not sure we can make latkes for 800 students, but there is something to it. And there is something in investing in that type of program, and here is why. We want to invest in that muscle memory. We want to invest in when our students go out and they are no longer surrounded by all of their friends in a Jewish day school, that they become the leaders when they feel a void, that they become the people who know how to host a Shabbat dinner, that they become the people that when they know they're sitting in a class at college and something anti-Semitic comes up or anti-Israel comes up, that they remember their lessons on Israel, and that they're able to articulate a defense of the Jewish people and the Jewish nation. That is, right, so that Jewish muscle memory is Jewish living and it's Jewish allyship. Athletics. This is something we know we want to make as strong as our academic program. We are investing in our athletics program, so you do see that sort of connection, TK to 12, and how we're developing students. This does not mean, just to be clear, we're not starting some massively competitive soccer team where now they're going to be, going to the World Cup in third grade. Just saying, I've been asked that question. So just saying. So we are developing sort of those traits, developing that foundation of movement, developing that foundation of sport, developing that foundation of skill in lower school, in middle school, that develops into it's a developmental program and a competitive program, so that we have an incredibly robust upper school program that is competitive and teaches all of those amazing life skills and provides that school pride that it does already. Future ready learning, we've talked pretty extensively about. I just want to also say a lot of that investment, it's not technology, it's actually in the professional development. When we talk about creating thinkers and these real world assessments, most of this, actually all of this faculty, if you guys think about it, ChatGPT was 3 years ago. So unless you just got out of college, none of our faculty have experienced it. We're all growing together. So again, that cohort of deans of teaching, learning, and innovation and the ed tech director, they are looking at what is the professional development that's needed? Where can we send them? What professional development can we do in-house? This is one of our priority. Financial sustainability. We've talked about the pie chart. We are in a place as well. I am, well aware that as that gift sunsets, we also need to possibly be drawing from an endowment. How do we add to an endowment? How do we add to reserves? TVT has very healthy reserves. For any of you who were here during COVID and no programs were cut, but we just magically added more teachers so that kids could be spaced. That came from reserve money. After October 7th, when we had to increase security, that's reserve money that allows us to do it without cutting program. So building those reserves and building the endowment will remain a priority for us. And campus evolution. We have an amazing campus, but I'm also a believer in not resting on our laurels. I know the world is changing, education is changing. Are there spaces we can be using more effectively, things like that? You will begin hearing later this year, early next year about a campus master plan. That is what it's looking at. How do we better use our space to run these programs. So I want to leave you with this, because I believe this in my core of being. As somebody who's been in Jewish education for a very long time, I can tell you TVT is the future of Jewish education. We are it, and what happens at TVT will shape the Jewish future of this region and anywhere our students go. That Jewish muscle memory that we talk about, that Jewish allyship that we talk about, that goes with them when they leave here. We are providing a Jewish education to more Jewish students and Jewish allies than any other Jewish school in Orange County. Strengthening TVT means very literally strengthening the Jewish future everywhere our students go. And that if you leave with nothing tonight, I think that is what matters, because these investments strengthen our competitive advantage, they deepen Jewish life and learning, and enhance the overall student experience. And we know that for as much as we do, we wouldn't be complete as a community without, I have to give them a shout out, our wonderful parent association. Because when we talk about sort of how we feel as a community and how our students feel as a community and where that comes from, it also comes from home. And the PA is who sort of ensures that all of these great things we talk about are able to be lived at home as well. There's a reason you get all of the gifts you get at the holidays. How do you experience this at home with your children? There's a reason you get invited to TVT Cares events to participate with your children, because strengthening that Jewish future here in Orange County and everywhere takes all of us to be able to do it. So, back to Moses. And by the way, do you want to know why you have to be a thinker? Because I'll give you one guess, what picture they kept trying to give me when this got AI'd. Moses at Sinai. For those of you who've read the Torah, there's a difference between Moses on the edge of entering the land and Moses at Sinai. You have to know that so you don't put the wrong picture up. So, back to Rabbi Sachs and the story of Moses on the edge of the promised land. Our imperative is to educate our children. At TVT, we are not only preparing students to succeed in college and career, we are shaping the kind of human beings who will strengthen our communities, care for others, and bring Jewish values to life in a world that needs them. The world our children will inherit tomorrow is already being shaped in the school we are building together today. A school that cultivates compassion, curiosity, and courage to make a better world. Make no mistake, your investment in your child's education at TVT not only makes their future brighter and therefore that of the world they'll enter, but it also fuels excellence, access, and the future of Jewish life and education in Orange County and beyond. So my last ask of you, starting on Wednesday, just so you know, continue your journey at TVT. Enrollment contracts will go out on Wednesday. Financial aid families will receive them on February 1st. Thank you very much. What I'm going to ask of you is this. If you have questions, comments, we're going to do sort of a QR code. I will get back to people who have questions and comments. I want to make sure as a community event, we leave time for, there is still beer and wine in the back. I see there are still cookies and plenty of food. Meet new people, mingle with one another, and enjoy the evening. Thank you so very much.